Listen, if you had told me 3 cycles ago that I would be cowering behind reinforced plasma barriers while a single human female turned our most elite military academy into what could only be described as a particularly violent art installation, I would have recommended immediate psychiatric evaluation. But here I am, Krix Vorthok, Senior Tactical Instructor at the Galactic Defense Academy, watching through security feeds as Corporal Maya Torres systematically dismantles everything we thought we knew about warfare. The whole mess started when they killed Zara Kim. Now, before you start thinking this is some tragic tale of star-crossed lovers, or whatever nonsense the entertainment networks are peddling, let me be clear. Zara Kim was not Maya's romantic partner. She was not her sister. She was her friend. Her best friend. And apparently, that was more than enough to unleash what I can only describe as controlled fury, given physical form. You see, we had been so very proud of ourselves for accepting 2 human cadets into our academy. Oh, how progressive we were! How enlightened! The first Deathworlders ever admitted to the most prestigious military institution in the galaxy. The media loved it. The politicians preened. The faculty quietly placed bets on how long they would last. I had taught thousands of cadets from hundreds of species over my career. Tall Altarians, with their 6 arms. Methane-breathing Korvaxi, who could survive in hard vacuum. Silicon-based Quellans, who could literally eat rocks and spit plasma. But humans? Humans were something else entirely. Zara Kim was small by human standards. Just over 5 feet tall, maybe 90 pounds, soaking wet. She had this habit of humming while she worked, this almost musical quality to everything she did. She approached tactical problems like she was solving puzzles, head tilted to one side, dark eyes bright with curiosity. She never raised her voice, never lost her temper, never broke protocol. Maya Torres, on the other hand, was what we had expected from a Deathworlder. 6 feet of muscle and attitude, with scars decorating her arms like some primitive war paint. She had this laugh that could probably shatter glass if she really put effort into it. When she smiled, which was often, you could see teeth that seemed just a little too sharp. She treated every training exercise like a personal challenge issued by the universe itself. The 2 of them were inseparable. Where Zara went, Maya followed. Where Maya charged headfirst into trouble, Zara was there with a plan to get them both out alive. It was actually quite touching, in a way that made most of us deeply uncomfortable. The Academy had protocols for everything. Absolutely everything. Emergency procedures for hull breaches. Just one thing before we begin. YouTube tells me 94.3% of you watching aren't subscribed. Subscribing is free. It really supports the channel, and you'll get more amazing HFY sci-fi stories delivered straight to you. Don't miss out. Radiation leaks, gravity failures, and approximately 47 different types of alien pathogens that could kill you in increasingly creative ways. What we did not have protocols for was humans. Oh, we thought we did. The medical staff had received extensive briefings on human physiology. We knew about their ridiculous bone density, their redundant organ systems, their frankly alarming ability to function with what would be fatal injuries for most species. We had adjusted the training programs to account for their enhanced physical capabilities. What we had not accounted for was the psychology, the pack bonding, the absolute terrifying loyalty they showed to anyone they considered family. The incident happened during a routine orbital patrol exercise. 3rd-year cadets, standard formation flying, nothing that hadn't been done thousands of times before. The patrol consisted of 6 fighters, 2 humans, 2 Zenthari, 1 Velcoran, and 1 Thazian. Cadet Melos Thorn was Thazian nobility, 3rd son of a minor house, but nobility nonetheless. He had the kind of arrogance that could only come from generations of genetic superiority complexes and unlimited family wealth. He also had connections in the Admiralty that made him essentially untouchable. Zara had beaten him in tactical analysis. Again, for the 5th time that semester. I watched the security footage later, reviewed it frame by frame, looking for some explanation that would make sense of what happened next. Thorne's fighter was equipped with military-grade weapons systems, not the training variants the exercise called for. How he had managed to switch them without anyone noticing was a question that would keep investigators busy for months. The energy lance that struck Zara's fighter was designed to punch through battle cruiser armor. Her little training craft never had a chance. She died instantly. Probably never even knew what hit her. The official report called it a tragic accident. Equipment malfunction. These things happen in a dangerous profession. Unfortunate, but not unprecedented. Cadet Thorne expressed his deepest regrets and was quietly transferred to a different academy. Case closed. Maya Torres attended the memorial service in full dress uniform. She stood at attention while the commandant spoke about duty and sacrifice and the noble tradition of service. She saluted when they fired the honor guard volleys. She accepted the folded flag with appropriate solemnity. Then she disappeared. Security swept the academy from top to bottom. Every room, every corridor, every maintenance shaft, nothing. It was as if she had simply vanished into the walls themselves. For 3 days, we assumed she had deserted, gone home to Earth to grieve in private. It would have been understandable, expected even. We were so very, very wrong. The first sign that Maya Torres had not deserted came when Cadet Thorne's personal shuttle exploded during what should have been a routine transfer flight. The explosion was precise, surgical, the kind that required intimate knowledge of Thasian engineering and access to military-grade shaped charges. The second sign came when 3 of Thorne's family associates died in what appeared to be unrelated accidents across different star systems. A gravity regulator failure here, a reactor coolant leak there, an unfortunate encounter with a maintenance robot that had somehow acquired a taste for Thasian blood. The third sign came when our secure communications network started receiving messages. Short, simple broadcasts that appeared on every screen in the academy simultaneously. No source code. No trace signatures. Just words that made my respiratory system seize up every time I read them. You killed my friend. You covered it up. Now you pay. That was when we realized Maya Torres was not grief-stricken. She was not broken. She was not hiding. She was hunting. The academy went into full lockdown. Every door sealed, every corridor monitored, armed security patrols every 6 minutes. We turned our most prestigious educational institution into a fortress, and still could not find one human female who apparently had decided that the laws of physics were more like friendly suggestions. Admiral Korath himself arrived on the 3rd day of lockdown. 4-star flag officer, veteran of 6 major conflicts, commander of the 7th Fleet. He strode into our command center like he owned the entire galaxy and demanded a full briefing on the situation. "One cadet?" he said, his voice carrying that particular tone that high-ranking officers use when they think everyone around them is fundamentally incompetent. "One human cadet has paralyzed an entire military academy." "Sir," I began, but he cut me off with a gesture that could have severed steel cables. "I do not want excuses, Instructor Vorthak. I want solutions. Find her. Capture her. End this embarrassment before the media gets wind of it." I wanted to point out that Maya Torres was not just any cadet. That humans were deathworlders for reasons that went far beyond simple physical toughness. That maybe, just maybe, we had made a serious error in judgment when we decided to sweep her friend's murder under the administrative carpet. Instead, I said, "Yes, sir?" The Admiral deployed an entire company of naval security to supplement our academy guards, professional soldiers with combat experience and military-grade equipment. Surely, they could handle one grieving cadet armed with whatever improvised weapons she had managed to scavenge. Maya Torres killed the first patrol within an hour. Not defeated, not incapacitated, killed. 3 trained soldiers, dead in a maintenance corridor that security sweeps had cleared just 20 minutes earlier. Their weapons were gone. Their armor was shredded. And carved into the metal wall beside their bodies was a message that made my secondary heart skip several beats. 3 down. 47 to go. She had counted them. Maya Torres had somehow infiltrated our secure facility, conducted reconnaissance on our entire security force, and was now working her way through a methodical elimination of everyone involved in covering up her friend's murder. The next message came 6 hours later, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device in the Academy. I know you are watching, Admiral Korath. I know you gave the order to transfer Thorn. I know you signed the papers that classified Zara's murder as an accident. I want you to understand something very clearly. There was a pause. Long enough that I started to wonder if the transmission had been cut off. Then Maya's voice continued, and there was something in her tone that made my scales itch with primitive fear. Anger is hot. Anger is quick. Anger makes mistakes. Another pause. I am cold. I am patient. I am thorough. And I am going to kill every single one of you involved in this conspiracy. Not because I have lost control, but because I have found it. Admiral Korath tried to rally his forces, tried to coordinate a systematic search of the facility, tried to implement standard counterinsurgency protocols designed for hostile boarding actions and terrorist infiltration. Maya Torres was not a terrorist. She was not an insurgent. She was a human who had lost her packmate and decided that the appropriate response was total war. The lights went out at 0347 hours, standard time. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in the hellish red glow that emergency lighting systems seem specifically designed to make everything look as ominous as possible. That was when we heard the laughter. Not maniacal cackling, not the sound of someone who had lost their sanity. This was worse. This was the sound of someone who was enjoying their work, who had found their calling, who was having the time of their life turning our secure facility into a hunting ground. Maya's voice echoed through the corridors, carried by some modification she had made to our communication systems. Attention, Academy staff and security personnel. My name is Maya Torres. Corporal, 2nd Class, Human Defense Forces. Serial number 7749, Delta X-ray. I am currently conducting a military operation on this facility. The laughter came again, rich and warm and absolutely terrifying. You may be wondering about the nature of this operation. Allow me to clarify. This is what humans call a war crime tribunal. I am the judge, I am the jury, and I am the executioner. Security cameras started going offline, one by one, in a pattern that suggested Maya was moving through the facility with systematic precision. But the really disturbing part was that she was not destroying them randomly. She was leaving just enough operational to let us watch what she was doing to the others. The camera in Section 7 showed her work with clinical clarity. 3 more security personnel, dead in what had clearly been a very short, very one-sided fight. Their weapons had been turned against them. Their armor had been penetrated with tools that should not have been capable of breaching military-grade protection. And there, spray-painted on the wall in what I really hoped was not blood, was another message. The galaxy taught humans to be killers. Congratulations! You created a masterpiece. Admiral Korath was screaming orders at everyone within earshot. Deploy more patrols. Seal the corridors. Flood the sections with knockout gas. Every solution that military training and decades of experience could provide. None of it worked. Maya Torres had been trained by the best military academies Earth had to offer. She had studied every tactical manual, every strategic doctrine, every counterinsurgency protocol that the galaxy had developed over 10,000 years of warfare. And now, She was using all of it against us. The next camera feed showed her face for the first time since the lockdown had begun. She looked exactly the same as she had 3 days earlier. Same uniform, though it was now decorated with equipment she had clearly liberated from our security forces. Same sharp smile. Same bright eyes that seemed to see everything. She looked directly into the camera and spoke in the kind of conversational tone you might use to discuss the weather. Admiral Korath, I know you are watching. I want you to understand that this is not revenge. Revenge is emotional. This is justice. Cold, calculated, and inevitable. She held up a data pad that was displaying what looked like personnel files. I have the complete records of everyone involved in covering up Zara's murder. 47 individuals, ranging from the cadet who actually pulled the trigger to the bureaucrats who falsified the incident reports. I have spent the last 3 days studying your security protocols, mapping your facility, and preparing detailed execution plans for each target. The smile widened, showing those sharp human teeth. I am going to kill all of them. Not might. Not probably. Will. The only variable is the order of operations. She leaned closer to the camera, and for a moment I could see something in her eyes that made my entire nervous system try to shut down in self-defense. Unless, of course, you would like to surrender yourselves for proper military justice. I am prepared to accept unconditional surrender at any time. You have 1 hour to consider this generous offer. The transmission cut off, leaving us staring at dead screens and listening to the sound of our own rapid breathing. Admiral Korath turned to face the assembled command staff, his expression cycling through approximately 6 different stages of panic before settling on what he probably thought looked like grim determination. Recommendations? Chief Security Officer Vex Tar, a veteran of more conflicts than most species had names for, cleared his breathing apparatus with a sound like grinding metal. Sir, with respect, I recommend we seriously consider surrender. The Admiral's face went through several color changes that would have been fascinating under different circumstances. Surrender? To one cadet? Are you out of your military mind? Sir, Vextar continued with the kind of patience that comes from having survived 40 years of military service. This human has killed 9 trained security personnel in less than 18 hours. She has demonstrated intimate knowledge of our facility, our protocols, and our personnel. She has superior intelligence, superior tactical awareness, and apparently unlimited access to our most secure systems. He paused, probably debating whether his next words would end his career or just get him shot. And sir, she is absolutely right. We did cover up the murder of her friend. We did falsify official reports. We did allow a killer to escape justice because his family has political connections. The silence that followed was the kind that usually precedes either enlightenment or mass executions. Admiral Korath opened his quiet mouth to respond, but was interrupted by every screen in the command center simultaneously lighting up with a new message. 53 minutes remaining. That was when the explosion started. The first explosion took out the primary power grid. The second eliminated our backup generators. The third, fourth, and fifth explosions were purely psychological warfare, spaced exactly 60 seconds apart to let us know that Maya Torres had enough ordnance to keep this up for quite some time. In the darkness that followed, illuminated only by the sickly glow of emergency chemical lights, Admiral Korath finally began to understand what we were dealing with. This was not a grieving cadet having a breakdown. This was a professional military operation conducted by someone who had apparently minored in applied terrorism. Status report, he barked, trying to maintain command authority in a situation that had clearly spiraled beyond anyone's control. Sir, she has eliminated our primary defensive systems, Chief Vextar reported, his voice carrying the kind of calm that comes from accepting inevitable doom. Communications are down, except for internal comms. Transporters are offline. Our security forces are trapped in sealed sections throughout the facility. And our prisoner? the Admiral asked. There was a pause that lasted approximately 3 heartbeats too long. Sir, we never actually had a prisoner. Maya Torres has been moving freely through this facility since the beginning. We have been hunting shadows while she systematically eliminated our ability to fight back. Another explosion, closer this time, close enough that dust rained from the ceiling, and several junior officers made sounds that would have been embarrassing under normal circumstances. Then Maya's voice echoed through the emergency speakers, clear as daylight and twice as cheerful. Hello again, Admiral. I hope you have been considering my generous offer of surrender. Unfortunately, your time is now up. The lights flickered back on. Not emergency lighting. Full illumination. Maya Torres had not only taken control of our power systems, she had done it while simultaneously conducting military operations against trained security forces. I want to share something with you all. Her voice continued, carrying that same conversational tone that was somehow more terrifying than screaming would have been. During my time at this academy, I learned many valuable lessons. How to plan tactical operations, how to coordinate complex logistics, how to identify and eliminate enemy targets with maximum efficiency. She paused, and I swear I could hear her smiling through the speakers. But the most important lesson I learned was this. The galaxy sees humans as monsters because we come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. What the galaxy fails to understand is that we are not monsters despite our world. We are monsters because of it. Security feeds started coming back online, one by one. But instead of showing us Maya's location, they showed us the results of her work. Corridors that had been turned into impromptu battlefields. Security checkpoints that looked like they had been hit by artillery strikes. And everywhere, that same message painted in substances I preferred not to identify. Justice for Zara Kim. Admiral? Maya's voice continued, and there was something new in her tone now. Something that made my respiratory system lock up entirely. I want you to look at Screen 7. The designated monitor lit up, showing what appeared to be Admiral Korath's private quarters. Except the Admiral was standing right beside me in the command center, which meant Maya Torres was currently in his personal space, probably sitting in his favorite chair, broadcasting live from his private sanctuary. Comfortable quarters, she commented, and the camera panned around to show her examining family pictures on his desk. Nice family. 3 children, if I am reading these correctly, all attending prestigious academies throughout the galaxy. The temperature in the command center seemed to drop by several degrees. You are threatening my family? Admiral Korath's voice cracked slightly on the last word. Threatening? Oh, Admiral, you misunderstand me completely. Maya's laughter was warm and genuine, and absolutely soul-crushing. I do not make threats, I make promises. And I promise to eliminate everyone involved in covering up my friend's murder. She turned to face the camera directly, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw Maya Torres without her characteristic smile. What I saw instead was infinitely worse. Your children had nothing to do with Zara's death. They are innocent. They are safe. They will remain safe as long as you make the correct decision in the next 60 seconds. What decision? The Admiral whispered. You turn yourself in for court-martial. You confess to your role in covering up the murder of Cadet Kim. You provide complete testimony regarding everyone else involved in the conspiracy. You do this willingly, publicly, and immediately. Maya leaned back in what was definitely the Admiral's favorite chair, looking for all the world like she was discussing dinner plans. Or I continue my current operation until every single person on my list is dead. Starting with you, Admiral. Right here. Right now. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of heavy breathing and what might have been quiet sobbing from somewhere in the back of the command center. How? Admiral Korath asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How did you do all this? Maya's smile returned, bright and sharp and utterly without mercy. You want to know how one human cadet infiltrated your most secure facility and neutralized your entire security force? She stood up, moving out of camera range for a moment before returning with what appeared to be a cup of tea. I asked myself what Zara would do. She took a sip of tea, completely at ease despite being surrounded by hostile forces in the middle of a military installation. Zara Kim was the finest tactical mind I have ever encountered. She could see patterns that escaped everyone else. She could predict enemy movements 6 steps in advance. She could find weaknesses in defensive positions that seasoned officers missed entirely. Maya set down the cup and looked directly into the camera with those bright, terrifying eyes. So I studied your academy like Zara would have studied it. I mapped every corridor, every ventilation shaft, every maintenance access point. I identified every security protocol, every defensive system, every possible weakness. I spent 3 months preparing for this operation while pretending to be a grieving friend who just wanted justice for her dead companion. She laughed again, and the sound echoed through the command center like breaking glass. The beautiful irony is that you taught me everything I needed to know. Every tactical manual I studied, every strategic doctrine I memorized, every piece of military training I received from your instructors. I used all of it to plan your destruction. Admiral Korath was staring at the screen with the expression of someone who had just realized they had been playing a completely different game than everyone else. You have 30 seconds to decide, Admiral. Surrender and face proper military justice. Or die here, in your comfortable chair, drinking tea that I personally prepared for you. The tea, he said, his voice hollow with realization. Oh yes, the tea. A lovely blend from Earth. Completely harmless, unless you happen to have the genetic markers common to Thasian nobility, in which case it becomes a rather efficient neurotoxin. You have been drinking it for approximately 4 minutes now. The Admiral's face went through several color changes that would have been fascinating under different circumstances. Of course, there is an antidote, readily available, completely effective if administered within the next 10 minutes. Maya picked up the cup and examined it with professional interest. The choice is yours, Admiral. Justice or death? You are insane, he whispered. No, Maya replied, her voice suddenly cold as vacuum. I am thorough. There is a difference. Admiral Korath collapsed into a chair, his breathing becoming rapid and shallow. The symptoms of Thasian neurotoxin poisoning, exactly as described in our xenobiology textbooks. I surrender, he gasped. Full confession, complete testimony, whatever you want. Maya Torres smiled, and for the first time in days, it looked genuinely happy. Excellent. The antidote is in your top desk drawer. Blue vial, clearly labeled. You will find complete documentation of your crimes, ready for your signature, in the folder marked Justice for Zara Kim. The screen went dark, leaving us staring at our own reflections in dead monitors. 3 hours later, Admiral Korath was in custody, awaiting court-martial on charges of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to murder. The remaining conspirators had been rounded up by military police, who arrived with arrest warrants that were apparently signed, sealed, and notarized before Maya Torres had even begun her operation. She had planned everything, every move, every contingency, every possible outcome. She had turned our own military justice system into a weapon and used it to destroy everyone who had wronged her friend. I found Maya Torres in the Academy Memorial Garden, sitting quietly beside the marker that had been erected for Zara Kim. She was back in standard cadet uniform, looking like nothing had happened, like she had not just conducted the most successful military operation in Academy history. Corporal Torres, I said, approaching carefully. I wanted to thank you. She looked up at me with those bright eyes that had seemed so terrifying just hours before. Now they looked tired, sad. Human, thank me? She asked. For teaching us something important. for showing us that humans are not just physically dangerous. You are strategically, tactically, and intellectually dangerous. You are capable of planning operations that our best military minds cannot even comprehend. Maya stood up, brushing dust from her uniform. Instructor Vorthak, humans are not inherently dangerous. We become dangerous when you threaten our pack, when you hurt our friends, when you think you can get away with murder because you have connections, and we are just primitives from a backwater world. She walked past me, heading back toward the main academy building. The galaxy wanted to know what humans are capable of when properly motivated. Now you know. I suggest you share that information with anyone who might be considering similar actions in the future. She paused at the garden gate, looking back one final time. Justice for Zara Kim has been served. I hope, for everyone's sake, that no one makes me demonstrate human capabilities again. Maya Torres graduated from the academy 6 months later with highest honors. She was immediately commissioned as a lieutenant in the Galactic Defense Forces and assigned to tactical planning for the 5th Fleet. The official reports of the incident were classified at the highest levels. The media was told that Admiral Korath had been arrested following a routine investigation into administrative irregularities. Cadet Thorne and his conspirators were quietly court-martialed and sentenced to long prison terms. The real story never made it into the official records. But every instructor, every administrator, every military officer who had been present during those 3 days of terror understood exactly what they had witnessed. They had seen what humans call justice, cold, calculated, inevitable justice, delivered by someone who had lost their packmate and decided that the response was total war against everyone responsible. The galaxy learned an important lesson that week. Humans are not dangerous because they are strong, or fast, or resilient. Humans are dangerous because they remember everything. They plan everything. They execute everything with ruthless precision. And they never, ever forget their friends. 6 months after Maya Torres graduated, enrollment applications from human worlds increased by 400%. Every major military academy in the galaxy suddenly wanted Deathworlder cadets. Everyone wanted humans on their side. Because if you are going to fight a war, you want warriors who understand that justice is not about anger or revenge. Justice is about making sure that the people who hurt your friends never get the chance to hurt anyone else ever again. Maya Torres never spoke about what happened during those 3 days. When asked, she would simply smile that sharp human smile and change the subject. But everyone who served with her understood one fundamental truth. Humans make excellent friends. Loyal, caring, protective friends who will stand by you through anything. They also make absolutely terrible enemies. The galaxy learned to remember both sides of that equation. And they learned to treat human cadets with the respect due to beings who had turned their friends' memorial service into a declaration of war against injustice itself. Justice for Zara Kim had been served. Complete, thorough, and absolutely final. And Maya Torres had made sure the galaxy would never forget it.